So, good morning, and thank you for attending the City of Port St. Lucie's virtual new business orientation. Today, we have the privilege of having some panelists that will be able to explain to you the process of opening your business here in Port St. Lucie and some of the steps that need to take to get approved. We have Teresa Aronson, the president of the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce, who will review their new business, their small business assistance program, which I think is great for businesses that are new to the area, not quite familiar with our process. The Chamber has a team of professionals that will work with you and be able to explain what's required specific to the location that you're looking to open. Next, we also have Isai Chavez with our Planning and Zoning Department, and he will go over the process of determining whether or not your business use is permitted based on a property's zoning and what that entails in terms of a zoning review. And then we have Yvonne White Grayson, who is our business tax supervisor. And so she will also describe to you the process of getting your business tax receipts approved and all the different organizations that are part of the review process. Just some housekeeping tips. So you will only be able to hear the presenters today. The audience, if you have questions, we ask that you type those into the Q&A window. And throughout the course of the presentation, we'll take questions and answer them. So as I introduced, that also will be the order of the presentations. And then last, again, I'm Elijah Wooten, the Business Navigator for the city, and I will give a brief overview of our Business Navigator program at the tail end. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Teresa. And again, if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to type them in. The first question is, will the presentation be recorded? And yes, this will be recorded.
Thank you, Elijah. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It's nice to see you, Yvonne. I haven't seen you for a while. It's nice to see you. Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about our small business assistance program with potential business openers and new businesses in our community. I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation with our participants today. It's very short. It's like 4 slides. You know me, Elijah. I'm typically terribly brief. So I am going to start sharing my screen and make sure you can see. I think that is our PowerPoint presentation. This is the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce's Small Business Assistance Program. We received some grant monies from the city, and then we have a lot of volunteers working on this with the Chamber of Commerce. So the reality,
Teresa,
yeah.
can you go to display settings on the top there?
Okay.
Swap the first.
Swap.
Yep.
Is that better?
No.
I think I have to do this. There you go. How about that?
No, we're still seeing the presenters mode.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know
So
why.
Stop your share, and then there you go. Now it's good.
Now it's good?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why. All I did was click the next slide. All right, here we go. So we are offering you an opportunity or access to many, many experts in opening a business. And when we say opening, we mean your retail space, commercial space. So the idea here is, oops, I went too fast. Before you buy, lease, build, or expand, we want you to call us, and we'll kind of get into the reasons why. So our program is called the Small Business Assistance Program. It is completely free. You do not have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce, but we want to help you at the front end. And that's the most important takeaway here, is we want to help you at the front end of your venture. So before you expand, before you build, before you put hammer to nail, call us. Before you move into a space that was previously occupied by some other business, call us. And this is why. And we're going to go into the for instance. What we offer is help on expansion. What is the best way to expand? What is this expansion going to entail in terms of retrofitting? It could be anything from drains to blowers, to lift stations, to plumbing, electrical. We can help you kind of figure all of that out, because our experts include an architect, an engineer, a planner, an attorney. We have all of that at your fingertips for free. So you aren't going to necessarily know what regulations are for you to start your business in terms of, oh, I didn't know I had to have this type of electrical. I didn't know I needed this drainage. If you're doing a standalone building, you're going to have on-site drainage outside your building. That's in addition to everything that you need inside your building. And this is a question, and I know we don't have a lot of interaction with our attendees, but I wanted to pose this question to sort of go over why we are doing this. And that is, let's say I'm opening a spa and I've identified 3 locations that might work for me. The first one is a former tanning salon that opened in 2018, closed last year, and it has treatment rooms, but the decor doesn't really work for my vision. I don't really like the way it looks. The second one is a former spa. It was a spa. It opened 15 years ago and it lasted that long in that area. And the decor is much in tune with what I'm looking for in my spa. And the last one is a former residential home, formerly a doctor's office. He remodeled the inside recently and his location really would work for me. And this is where I hoped we could have a little bit more interaction, but I'm looking at the question and answering. And this is where we would look at each one of these spaces and sort of help you dive into what might be best for your needs. So the tanning salon, the decor doesn't work for you, but they opened in 2018 and just recently closed. So what that would tell the group, which maybe wouldn't be something you're looking at when you're trying to find a place to operate your business, is that it was probably brought up to ADA regulations more recently, meaning the bathroom's the right size, the doorways are the right size, all of the ADA regulations that you're going to have complied with to open your business may have been done for you because it just was recently renovated to open. The spa that opened 15 years ago, in order for you to take over that space, you're going to have to bring it up to regulation now, not 15 years ago regulation, now regulation. And that could be incredibly costly because ADA regulations change frequently. The last one was about 4 years ago, 2015-16. They redid regulations there and they required a whole lot more things. And you're going to have to comply with all that. So that even though it was a spa and it looks great inside, it may be cheaper to redecorate than to retrofit the bathrooms and all the hallways and all the ADA requirements. A former residential home, when you go into a space that stands alone, you are going to be required to make sure that when it leaves when your services connect to outside services like, sorry about that, plumbing, you're going to need lift stations. You might need on-site, and I mean on your property, drainage and retention that may not have been complied with because that operation had been in that home for some time. So these are things that are very costly, very, very costly. And I'm trying to look at the questions here. So the other thing that we want to talk about is when you go in to buy or rent a space, you need to talk with your landlord on what they will help you retrofit. And the experts that we put together could also do that. They will help you give you some idea what can be negotiable in a lease. But once you sign that lease, we can't really help. We can tell you what to expect, but we can't really help anymore. So we do these things so that we can tell people that are getting ready to start a business, call us first so that we can help you decide on the best space and then help you tell or advise you on what might be negotiable in your lease. Also, I can give you some testimonials. There are certain types of business that have certain types of requirements. We worked with a daycare recently and they wanted to purchase land and build a daycare. Well, after examination by the group, we realized that that land was not wide enough. It didn't have enough frontage for it to operate legally as a daycare. And so if she would have purchased that land, she would have been stuck with that land, and then she would not have been able to operate her business. They would have told her it's not large enough. So these are the things that we do. On the front end, we help you before you buy, sell, rent, or expand. Call us and we'll help narrow down costs. We'll help figure out the best possible fit for you. And we do it all completely and utterly free. So this is my contact information. And without questions, it's hard to tell what they need to. Elijah, are there questions in there?
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt as you were presenting. Most were regarding home-based business. So that will be covered under each month's presentation. For the Chamber's program, it is focused more on physical locations, more brick and mortar, but the city does license home-based businesses, and Yvonne can elaborate on what the requirements are. Other questions were if the session will be recorded, and this is being recorded, and will be archived on the city's website so that you could watch it later. But that was all so far.
Very good. Yes, ours is really for brick and mortar. That is in a nutshell, it is for brick and mortar, operating in a brick and mortar space for your business. So for sure. And I gave my contact information. I'm easy to find. I'm at the St. Lucie County Chamber of Commerce. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I would be very, very happy to help. So that's it for me, unless, nope, doesn't look like anybody has any questions. I'm going to pass it back to you, Elijah.
Thanks, Teresa. We appreciate it. It's very informative. And again, for the participants, if you have a question that comes to mind that pertains to Teresa's presentation, again, feel free to just jot it down, and we'll mention it throughout the course of the workshop. Next, we have Isai Chavez with our Planning and Zoning Department. And so, as Teresa showed with her example, there are times when you have to confirm if what you're going to do in the physical space is allowed by the city. And so oftentimes that's where planning and zoning comes in, where they go through the different zoning districts based on your location, as well as the different uses that are allowed. And so that's part of the review process when you're opening a business. And so we'd like to invite Isai to explain that a little bit more. And again, if you have questions, feel free to type them into the chat box. Isai, it's all yours.
Thanks, Elijah. And I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, is everyone seeing a PowerPoint? Not, I'll try to share again. Let's see.
Yes, I see your PowerPoint.
You do? Okay, perfect. Awesome. So yes, thanks Elijah. Thanks Avi for putting this together.
Isai, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Can you start the presentation though with seeing the presenters mode?
You mean I need to swap?
Yeah, you need to swap, yeah.
Okay. Are you seeing it now?
Nope, we're still seeing your presenters mode.
So just start the slideshow and I guess it would go to.
Oh. I'm gonna go to slideshow. Still seeing presenters, it's
We're still seeing the presenters mode, not presentation mode.
Okay.
So just stop the share and then start the share again, and then select the presentation part of it versus
Okay.
the presenters mode.
Okay. Let's try this.
There you go.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Sorry about that. Technical issues always. So yeah, Planning and Zoning Department, again, this is Isai Chavez, planner with the City of Port St. Lucie Planning and Zoning Department. And, we kind of have a unique role. We often deal with development review, when you're in that process of site plan and things of that nature that has to go through site plan review committee and planning and zoning board. But we also deal with businesses because of the zoning aspect. And I'm going to show you something here. So let's say, for example, that you are a new business that is moving into the city, or you're currently in an existing location within the city and you're moving to another location. within the city. What you see here is often what a planner looks like when you when you call in, and the singular color is all, residential, but you'll see other colors on the zoning map, and that is where you come in, because what you want to know, and you often want to do this research even before you get to the business tax receipt stage, or what used to be called occupational licensing, is you want to do research on whether your particular use, your particular business would be allowed at that location. And that is where we come in. At the end of the presentation, I will give you our contact info so that you could know, so that you can call in if you ever have these type of questions. But a planner looks at this zoning map, and they look at the address where you're looking at to relocate to or to move into. And then we take whatever that zoning is, and we look at what are the permitted uses per our zoning code, what would be allowed. So a very common zoning district would be the general commercial. And as you can see here, these are all the permitted uses 1 through 14 that would be allowed in that zoning district, general commercial. And the reason why I think it's important to do this research and to call in and talk to the planner of the day about whether your particular business would be allowed at that location per zoning is because even though general commercial may seem like a very common thing that you'd see, general commercial is just one of 5 zoning districts that would fall under commercial. There's also service commercial, there's professional. So this can get very tricky, and your realtor would only be able to tell you so much. Let's say if you're using a realtor to find a specific location. So you definitely want to make sure that you comply zoning wise before you get to this stage, because this is when you do the formal review. And my colleague Yvonne over at Business Tax will go over the business tax receipt process, but part of that process will require planning and zoning to review if your particular business would be allowed per zoning at this location. And this is the form that you will find on our site. And you could certainly fill this out and submit this to our department. Or if you happen to go to business tax receipt first, they will provide you with this application, and they will have you fill it out. And then once the planner reviews it, they submit it back to business tax, because business tax uses it as part of their review for your business tax receipt application. So it's one of the things that they look at. But before you get to this stage, once again, you can call in and kind of have an idea from speaking to the planner of the day of whether your particular business would be allowed at that location. There are some times where normally you won't have any issues. Normally zoning will allow your particular business, but there are times where it is not specifically a permitted use, and it is called what we call a special exception use, where it would require to allow your particular business at that location to go through city council approval, and it is a process. And that is something that you would also find out either when you call in and speak to planner of the day, or once you're at the formal stage where you're filling out the form that I showed you here on the previous slide, and you're at that stage when you're being formally reviewed, you would also find out something of that nature. Another way that we interact with businesses is through the compliance form review. I'm sure everyone is very familiar with submitting a building permit application, but what often gets overlooked is the fact that before that, if you are a commercial development and you're doing any kind of interior or exterior change, let's say you're a new tenant at a retail strip, you're tearing down some walls, you're doing some interior improvements or interior build out. Maybe you want to add an awning on top of some parking spaces. all of that requires compliance form review. And in fact, the building department will not look at your building permit application until you have had this form approved. And this is the first page of the form that I'm referring to. And compliance form is something that gets reviewed by our department first, but also gets reviewed by utilities and public works. And once we have signed off on that application, then you can go ahead and apply for a building permit. And some of the things that will require this kind of form is, let's say you're adding a fence, dumpster enclosures, model homes, new cell phone towers. I mentioned awnings that touch the ground, interior build outs. So there are certain things, anytime you're modifying a commercial site, that you would be required to go through us through this compliance form process. And if there are any questions about how this actually works, or how to access these things on our site, I'd be happy to maybe towards the end if that is one of the questions that arise. But probably the easiest thing for you to do would just be to contact our main number and speak to the planner of the day. If anything, if you have any, questions, in regards to these things, or is something that you run into in your process as you are looking to relocate your business, I really encourage you to call this number and speak to the planner of the day. That concludes my presentation. I don't know if there are any questions in the Q&A, Elijah, or?
I didn't have any questions from your presentation. The only additional one was if the session was recorded and when it would be available on the city's website, which should be later this week.
Okay. And then with that, I will pass it back to you, Elijah.
All right. Thanks, IEC. Very informative. Next, we have Yvonne White-Grayson with our Business Tax Division. And so once you have gone through the Chamber's program to identify any issues before you sign in a lease, and then you've contacted our Planning and Zoning Department to confirm that what you intend to do there is allowed by zoning, then you go through the process of actually applying for your business tax receipt. And so one of the questions that came earlier was if this presentation was only specific to brick and mortar locations. The city does also issue business tax receipts for home-based businesses. And so Yvonne can also elaborate on that. But without further ado, we'd like to turn over to Yvonne for her presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out to participate in this orientation for new businesses or existing businesses. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so that you can see my PowerPoint. Give me 1 second. Having a little technical issue there. Sorry about that. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that technical issue. So there's just some simple steps for starting your business. And so this is just startup basics. It's not all inclusive. So it is specific to the nature of your business. So by attending this workshop this morning, if you are a new business applicant, you can, when coming in to apply for your business tax receipt, mention that you attended this workshop. You would be entitled to 50% off the reduction of your business tax receipt application. So keep in mind when you are applying, whether it be in the office by appointment or by emailing, mention this workshop and you will receive a 50% reduction. So starting a new business, as I indicated, you can operate from either your home or a commercially located business location. There are some rules that are associated with operating from both of these types of businesses, but when submitting your application or inquiring on the nature of business that you want to operate, you would advise our office if you can operate from a home or commercially location, and then we can direct you from there. So home occupation, of course, is a home occupation permitted in the residential zoning district and as far as commercial as well. Eastside did go over what the requirements are for operating from a commercially located entity. So we always ask that you check your zoning requirements prior to signing a lease, purchasing a property, things of that nature before starting your business venture. One of the rules for a home-based business is that you cannot utilize more than 200 square feet of your residence. You cannot change the character or the dwelling of your residence, and there cannot be an outside appearance that there's a business being operated from the residence. So you can't have any type of signage, you can't increase the flow of traffic, things of that nature. If your business will increase the flow of traffic or there's individuals reporting to the residents, you may be requested to seek a commercial location in which to operate your business from. Going over some of the commercially located businesses, it has to meet the zoning regulations as well as utility requirements. Special events can be held on commercially located properties with approval from the code compliance. There's criteria regarding parking, landscaping, things of that nature, and that information can be discussed with the planning and zoning department. They will also go over that information with you when you're applying for your occupancy use and zoning. There are some business tax regulations, and the business tax receipts do expire September 30th of each year. Currently, our business tax receipts are prorated because our fiscal year does end on September 30th. The fiscal year starts on October 1st of each year. So if you were coming in to apply today, you would be paying a prorated tax fee, and you also have the option to renew for the upcoming year between the July 1st and the September 30th time period. There are some restrictions as far as when you can obtain your business tax receipt and operating without a business tax receipt. The business tax receipt is based upon the nature of business, and therefore it depends on the business occupation, if you sell products, things of that nature, or if you your business is solely online. If you're going to be operating under a business name, it must be registered with sunbiz.org, Department of Corporations. You can either register as a fictitious name or as a LLC, limited liability company, incorporation, corporations, things of that nature. There are exemptions when you are applying for a business license. There are a couple of qualifications that need to be met if you want to be fee exempt. We have exemptions for veterans, individuals that are aged 67 or over, and there are some requirements to that, and if there's any public assistance being issued to the household. The issuance of a local business tax receipt does not eliminate any city or state requirements as it relates to the regulation of the business or the occupation. So if you are required to hold a state license for your business, you're required to obtain that state license prior to making application to the city of Port St. Lucie. In addition to registering with our office for a local business tax receipt, you are also required to register with the county. You have to hold a city and a county business tax receipt, And if you decide to take your business or your service into any other municipality or jurisdiction, you just need to check with that municipality to see if they require, if you are required to register with their agency or if they will honor your local business tax with our office. And Elijah, I don't know if there was any specific questions that anybody had that they would like to ask.
Yes, I did get a question from Ron Reed. He said he's already submitted and was awarded his business tax receipt June of 2020 and wanted to know if the 50% discount could be applied to the upcoming renewal.
The 50% discount is applied by attending one of the workshops that the city puts on. So if you did not attend a workshop prior to making application, you would not be eligible to receive that credit.
Thank you. And the credit is applied to the application fee or the actual tax receipt?
It is applied to the application fee.
Thank you. Thanks, Yvonne. I didn't have any additional questions, but again, we appreciate your presentation. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the services that are offered the Business Navigator program, and then also just a flow chart. So I'm going to kind of elaborate a little bit more on what our process entails in terms of obtaining a business tax receipt. So give me 1 second. Okay, just want to confirm if everyone's able to see the screen I'm sharing.
Yes.
I can see it.
You can see it? Okay. So as was mentioned both by Isai and Yvonne, the business tax process includes a couple of departments, planning and zoning, our building department, as well outside of the city, the fire district, and business tax. So when you first make application, there is a use and occupancy review form, and that is submitted to business tax, but given to our planning and zoning department. What planning and zoning will do is look at the type of business you have, what type of use they would define it as, you know, whether you're warehouse or industrial or retail, restaurant, professional office, medical, etc. And they would then look at the zoning for the property to confirm if what you're going to do there is allowed by zoning or what we would call a permitted use. And so once the that is approved, then the business tax division would then forward the information to our building department to schedule what they call your business tax receipt inspection. And so the building department would then look at the actual physical space that the business would be located in and would determine if what you're going to do in the interior space is allowed by the Florida Building Code, kind of similar to what Teresa's prior presentation spoke of in terms of the physical space and things that would be required to operate the business. So there may be some times where you're going into a space that was exact same business that you're going to do, but there may be some other alterations needed. You know, an example would be a hair salon. So if you're going into a space that was a former hair salon, but in addition to doing hair, you also want to do nails, then the building department may have requirements that you now have to install a ventilation system for the nail polish and fumes. So what happens when they do the business tax or BTR inspection, if it's approved, then you would then just go to the business tax division to finish the process. If it's not approved, then what would have to happen is you would have to apply for a change of occupancy and submit the floor plan for what the intended operations would be there in the space that you're going to lease or purchase. And then that goes through what we call plan review. And so Plan review through the building department includes the 4 disciplines: your building or structural, your electrical, your mechanical, and your plumbing. As well, the fire district would also do its plan review. And so once you've been approved through plan review, if there are any renovations needed, then that's when your general contractor would submit a permit. And back to Isaid's presentation, it would go through compliance review first to make certain that everything's fine with planning and zoning, public works, and utilities before the general contractor is able to submit to the building department for permit applications. So again, once it's approved through plan review, the permit is issued, the contractor can begin renovations, and then it's just a series of calling for your inspections. Once you get your certificate of completion for interior build outs, or if it's a new building, your CO, then you finish the process with the business tax division. I'm going to bounce from one screen to the next, so bear with me. I hope I do this right. Okay. So, so the Business Navigator program was created a couple of years ago through the city manager's office. And it was one of the things that the council would like to, they wanted to help businesses that were going through the process. And so they created the Business Navigator program to assist either new businesses or existing businesses understand our development process, understand our permitting process, and work with the reviewing departments, planning and zoning, public works, utility systems department, and the building department, as well as outside agencies like the fire district and FP&L. And so my job is kind of broken into 3 parts. One is assisting with development applications and permit applications. And then 2, serving as a point of contact for the Economic Development Council. And so if there are companies that are moving or relocating to Port St. Lucie and are requiring any type of assistance or incentives, then normally the Economic Development Council would present that to the City Council, and we facilitate those incentives and assistance to either retain expanding companies or attract new companies. And then last would be working as the local point of contact for our small businesses. And so whether it's putting together programs to provide education and training, or, again, working more one-on-one with resources like the Small Business Development Center, SCORE, and others who can provide more direct consulting assistance to small businesses. That's what we help to facilitate. So that's kind of a very brief overview of the services provided through the Business Navigator program. I believe there were some questions that came up. I think Isaid wanted to respond, so let me see if I can find it.
Oh no, Elijah, the one that I clicked live was because it was the one that was asked to Yvonne about the 50% renewal.
Yes.
So I just kind of took it out of the open questions, that's all.
Okay.
It wasn't a new question. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Okay, so just wanted to check to see if there are any additional questions you would like to ask. Feel free to type them in. For our panelists, I didn't know if there were any additional comments that came to mind as we were presenting that you also want to share with the group.
I just want to thank you, and I'll turn my camera on. Maybe. There we go. I just want to thank you for inviting me and being a part of this, and I hope our attendees enjoyed it as well. And just remind them, do your homework, make some phone calls, reach out to us. Everything that we've talked about today is free to any person that wants it. So there's no reason to take advantage of it. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it today, Elijah. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, Teresa. Isaid or Yvonne, any closing comments or things you'd like to add?
Just wanted to also thank you, Elijah, and again, Avi, for putting this together. Like I mentioned throughout the presentation, there's that phone number for the planner of the day. That's all those questions can be answered that you have in regards to those things that were covered, whether it was the compliance form or whether it was the the occupancy use form and all that stuff. So, like Teresa said, all the advice here is free. Please reach out and, we'll provide you with the service that you deserve and that you need to get your business started.
And I concur. We're here to assist you anywhere through the process. Our office is always available by appointment, or you can call and talk to us on the phone. Our documents, our forms for our applications are on our website. Any additional information that you may need about starting up your business is also on the website. So feel free to give our office a call. We're here to assist because the success of your business is our business. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you for all the panelists today, Yvonne, Saeed, and Teresa. Some great information to share with our business owners. A couple of things to note. So right now we're doing these virtually. They'll be held quarterly. Again, once we get past COVID and the pandemic, these will be in person. But to add, the Business Tax Division also does a series of workshops throughout the year. That information is posted on their website. So, we do invite you to visit that to find out when the upcoming workshops will be held. Also, this fall, the city is sponsoring another business accelerator program that's held in conjunction with the Florida Small Business Development Center at IRSC. It is a 10-week course that's held in the evenings. And so for participants, they're able to get trained on how to better manage their business, things to consider if they have employees, social media and marketing and finance issues. And as a part of the course, we also have a small business grant that's made available. It's up to $5,000 and can be used for the purchase of supplies or inventory, marketing or advertising, professional services, and employee training. And so participants are able to apply for the grant and make a presentation to a judges panel or a pitch. And that judges panel does then decide the amount of the award. It's a reimbursement grant, so once awarded and you've expended the dollars that you've been approved for, then you submit the receipts and the city does reimburse you. So that will be this fall. We're still determining if it will be an in-person class or will have to be a virtual class, but we'll have some more information available. Again, we wanted to thank everyone for today's workshop and presentation, and we look forward to hearing from you. Again, my personal information, it's my office number, 772-873-6374, and the email is ewooten@cityofpsl.com. So if there are any questions that you have that you didn't get a chance to ask but need some answers to, feel free to give us a call. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thanks again for joining us.